Hi, this is Des of Peg and Des. Peg is still on travel this week. I'm holding the fort down. She'll be back next week. We have to get into Sons of Anarchy. There was so much happening this week. When the episode opened and we saw Tara, I was convinced that Tara felt badly about her behavior with Gemma last week. Convinced. Then I hear Tara open up and say, "Jax, have you taken care of Gemma?" And I quickly realize she doesn't feel badly. She's quite indignant about her behavior. Until Unser comes over. This whole episode was about people in Charming coming to Tara to talk about her behavior. Think about it. Unser had something to say about it. He said, "It's unfortunate that you had to do something so bad for what you thought was so good." That was tough for her to hear. Then she had to hear from Bobby. And even though Bobby was not indicting her for her behavior, he did have a lot to say about the moral code and how things come back around. That impacted her, clearly. The attorney has lots of shade for her. The attorney is completely over her behavior because the attorney feels like you pulled me into this situation, didn't let me know what was really happening, and now I can be complicit in a crime. And then, of course, Wendy. So Tara's getting it from all sides, but she should feel badly. She really should. This whole situation kind of begs the question, if Tara had not done what she did, had not faked the pregnancy, had not faked the miscarriage, what other ways could she have gotten out of the situation with Jax, the motorcycle club, and keep her boy safe? I was actually thinking about that during the episode, and it was hard for me. I'm not quite sure how she could have escaped getting Jax to sign over the parental rights such that Gemma could never see the children again. Maybe she didn't have to do something so drastic, but I would love to hear from you if you have any ideas on what our girl Tara could have done besides put old Gemma in prison. Not cute at all. We need to get to Wendy because Wendy is back in a space that's not good. Not good. Wendy, we know, is a historical druggie on this show. She is historically hated on this show. She may be the most hated woman in Charming. I feel like Jax has more hate for Wendy than, you know what, a good comparison's not even coming to my mind right now. He looks at her, let me tell you something. Jax looks at Wendy like he hates her in his real life. Right? Like they walk off the set, he still can't stand her. That's just how much venom is coming from him in those scenes. And she even says, "I'm tired of being hated." And of course, we see how that's going to play into her decision to back Tara or back Gemma. I mean, the guilt of what happened last week is clearly weighing on her because we see her cop some drugs. But the good news is that she holds on to them, right? She didn't take them right away. Now, she eventually does take them, but she didn't take them right away. I call that progress. I'll give her 2 points for progress for not shooting up in the car. All right, maybe not. Either way, Wendy is back on drugs. Gemma, of course, comes over. And I thought Gemma was going to play to Wendy's interest in being around her boys more often. And Gemma, in the way Gemma only can, flips the script and is like, "I'm just going to make sure Jax doesn't kill you." And I thought that was crazy. I thought that was absolutely crazy. But then I thought to myself, you know what? Jax actually would kill Wendy because he almost did last season with the speedball. He absolutely did. He has no issue whatsoever with taking her out. And it's a wonder he hasn't already done so. So Gemma was speaking gospel truth there. But I am curious to see next week how Wendy is going to try to get back into the fold. One of our commenters, I think last week or a couple of weeks ago, predicted this. I don't remember which commenter you are, but you're out there and you predicted that Wendy was eventually going to flip on Tara and find a way to get back into Gemma's good graces. If it happens next week, we all owe you $1, girl. Now, Gemma, so we've already talked about her a little bit, but we really need to just focus on her for a second because that conversation in the car between she and Unser was a long time coming. I saw this play, this Chris Rock play called The Motherfucker in the Hat. This was years ago. In the play, there is a memorable quote. "The difference between who you are and who you think you are is embarrassingly wide." Basically to say, your perception of yourself is so dramatically different than from the reality of who you are, it's embarrassing. And that's how I feel about Gemma. Gemma feels like she is the consummate grandmother, taking care of her children or her grandchildren, taking care of her family and doing what needs to be done, when in fact she's out of control. She's violent and she's quite unnecessary. And there's no doubt that she loves the boys, but she's very much out of control with how she behaves, especially the kinds of situations that she repeatedly puts them into. And I feel like Unser this week gave her that gut check. You gotta stop. There's so much hate in you right now, Gemma, that we can't even get the love out anymore. I wonder if you're even capable of love anymore. That's tough. That is tough. She also has a conversation with Jax, and he says to her that grandma is dead. That's all I remember from that conversation. Grandma is dead, which was also very tough to watch. I mean, Jax and Gemma are almost like a married couple. And I know that sounds odd because they're mother and son, but the way they interact, the way in which they rely on each other, and the adult nature of that relationship, it's so dependent that it's not mother-son. It's too much to be mother-son. And do you remember when Bobby made a comment to Tara and he said that Jax is the kind of guy who always needs to be with someone? Well, Gemma is kind of like that someone. And I know that may sound crazy because again, that's his mom, Oedipus complex and the whole bit. But still, he relies on his mother in the way that a man relies on a woman that he is in a romantic relationship with. And now that Gemma is alienated from the family, Jax needs to get back into the fold with Tara. We saw at the closing of the episode, let me back in, let me back in. I believe that that's what that's about. My mom is gone. That woman I used to rely on is no longer available. I need to get back into the good graces of this relationship because I can't find myself by myself. That's who Jax is. We need to talk about Cat Daddy Nero. Nero is still sexy. I know you guys get so sick and tired of hearing me say that week after week, but I just want to let everybody know. And the reason why I want to let everybody know is because it's my hope that one of you watching these reviews knows Nero and you can put him in touch with me, because I would love nothing more than to spend some time with that cat daddy with his open shirt, wife beater on, and all of his Hispanic goodness. I love him. Now, he gives up, quote unquote, gives up the source of the gun to CCH Pounder, whose name, by the way, I don't know on the show. All I know is that she's the DA. I'm going to call her by her real life name, CCH. He says that he's the one responsible for the gun. Now, that situation was, like, I used to watch a lot of American Gangster, and I was wondering if Nero gave up himself because he knows that if he gives up the club, he's just as good as dead on the street as he is in jail. And they may even go after his son. You know, Nero has a kid out there with a number of disabilities, needs around-the-clock care. And that's the thing that always appeals to Nero about children. You ever notice how much of a soft spot he has with children? From everyone from Venus to the kids from the school to his own child. Whenever you're talking about women and children, Nero's got a soft spot for you. And this week he gave up himself, falsely of course, for the guns. CCH is playing dirty, but I understand where she's coming from. Like last week I wasn't quite feeling her so much, but this week I get it. She's a woman about her business. I do love the fact that she told Nero that he is not responsible for the murder of the dead prostitute, which of course he knew, but she dropped the charges so that he doesn't have to go to jail for, the crazy Marshall's crime. I'm glad she did that. That was a redeeming moment for her. Now, all the other stuff that she has going on, I can rock with. I get it. Releasing the headlines, people do this all the time. You've got to get the story out there in order to get some traction going. There are 3 or 4 children dead from an elementary school in a small town. Who's going to take responsibility for it? Somebody has to. So I get CCH. Just a sidebar on all of this. The whole situation with Jax, the MC, Nero's crew, standing outside, wherever they were, some dusty road in Charming, and the father of one of the slain children at the elementary school driving up and killing one of the gangsters was crazy. But did anybody notice how Juice didn't move? Did anybody peep that? The driver comes full speed ahead. They think it's the cops. All of a sudden they realize it's not the cops. Everyone's jumping out of the way. Juice isn't. So I don't know if this behavior from Juice, all of this daredevil activity is building up to something, but keep in mind, was it 2 or 3 episodes ago? He was jumping off motorcycles, fighting police officers. I mean, he's quite reckless right now. It's almost like he's got a death wish. And I'm waiting to see what that story builds up to. I really hope they carry that storyline out and give us something to work with when it comes to Juicy. All right, that's this week's episode. A lot going on. Next week, I think Clay is back. I don't know where he's been for these last few episodes. I was just praying and hoping he wasn't being anally raped in prison during that entire time. So Clay is back. We're going to find out what will happen with the Irish and guns. And I think there'll be more development on the Gemma Tara front. I don't know if we'll see them together again, but there'll be more development. I'm most excited by far to see what our girl Wendy is going to do. I don't know if she'll be high next episode, if she'll have her stuff cleaned up, ready for vengeance, who knows? But next week. Make sure to subscribe to this channel. Make sure you like this video, share it, offer your comments, and come back for next week. Goodbye.